I just woke up. What's up everybody, D-Man back. Welcome to a brand new video, and today we are going to be doing another Playmates unboxing. That's right, the Playmates unboxings continue with their weirdest entry yet. I don't understand why they made this figure. I just don't get it. Also, I want to give a quick heads up. What I think I'm going to do with the Playmates videos is I think I'm going to try and do shorter videos, one figure per video. Because normally I do 2 figures per video and it's all nice and good. But I just want some more consistency on the channel, to be honest. And it's like if I do 2 at once, that's half the content. That might seem like a really sellout-y thing to do, but it's not about the money. It's about the consistency. We both know that I disappear for half the semester. So if I can have as much content as possible ready for you guys to go out throughout the semester, that's good. That's a good situation. So today we're going to be reviewing the one and only this is the only thing we're going to review today. I don't get it. Why'd they make it? What is this guy? It is we're going to be reviewing the Supercharged Godzilla with fighter jet. Cool stuff, Playmates. Starting out with the box, as always, it's their normal Godzilla vs. Kong box with the orange background, the blue Godzilla, the normal looking Kong. I don't love it. I think it's alright. I think it's okay. I didn't realize how much better it could be. Compared to their new boxes, like, it's night and day. This is way better than this. So, this is the old model. Playmates agrees with me, considering a lot of their Godzilla vs. Kong releases have switched from the Godzilla vs. Kong packaging to the Monsterverse brand overall. Good choice there. Back of the box is fine. Just got this picture of Godzilla holding a plane roaring into the sky. I guess I didn't realize he comes with a fighter jet, even though it's Supercharged Godzilla with fighter jet. On the front, you've got a picture revealing his battle damage. On the side, just the Godzilla vs. Kong logo, and then, of course, the name of the figure. And on the back, you've got an array of Godzilla vs. Kong figures. Now, I do know of all of these. I know of the Skullcrawler, I know of the Warbat, I know of the Godzilla with the radio tower, I know of the Neon Godzilla and Kong. The one that I have never seen, I've never been able to track it down, is Kong with fighter jet. Anybody watching this video, please comment below and let me know, did they ever make Kong with fighter jet? I have tried to track him down. I've even looked him up on Amazon. Now, this was a while ago. I looked him up many months ago, but he was not there on Amazon when I looked him up. So is that a real figure? Did they ever release it, or did they turn it into something different like Arctic Kong? Please let me know down below. Now, the reason that I'm so baffled that they would make this figure is because it's basically a reskin of their Battle Roaring Godzilla, which is not the greatest figure. Why? Why'd you do this? Let's get him out and talk about it. To the surprise of many, despite the subpar sculpts of the Battle Roaring Godzilla and Kong, I actually like those figures. I rated them pretty highly because I thought they had goofy gimmicks. Now let's take a look at what would happen if that Godzilla did not have such a gimmick. The good news is it's a Playmates, which means these go together very easily, because of course they come in 2 separate pieces in the box. Although I'd just like to throw out there, this was also the hardest one to plug in. This was the hardest tail to put together out of all of them. But there he is, now he's all put together. Of course he does have a giant chunk missing on his chest because he is a battle damaged Godzilla. Much like with the Godzilla 2014, the body it goes into is hard plastic, whereas the battle damage is rubber, meaning you can notice the difference from afar. The battle damage piece has a good bit of texturing on it, as you can see the iconic Godzilla chest pattern built into it. So it's got the scale pattern pretty good. I never really show off the inside of these battle damage pieces because they're typically just red, but this one has the ribs built in, which is a good touch. I actually like that. It looks really cool, really gross. Again, I don't know of anybody who really plays with these things that uses the battle damage pieces. Even my little brother who has these doesn't do that. He always keeps them together, so I don't get the point of it. But the 2 pieces fit together, and it just creates this weird contrast between the standard Playmates unrendered look, which is typical for Playmates. That's what their hard plastics look like, and they're fairly well detailed rubber pieces. It's the same exact contrast we saw with the 2014 Godzilla. It also, because they're 2 different types of materials, it makes the difference much more noticeable from afar. You can totally tell where in here the battle damaged piece is. It was much more seamless in some of the older figures. Just pointing out the 2 of them from afar, this is one of their older figures, this is the newer one. And at least for me, my eyes can immediately tell on this guy much more obviously than this guy where the battle damaged piece is, even though they're the same battle damaged piece. Because the old battle damaged pieces, while they were rubbery, they were harder rubber, so they were much more plasticky. Talking about the fighter jet here, they made the strange decision to already have it be crumpled and destroyed. This is so it can go into Godzilla's hand better and make it look like he smashed it out of the sky, but it kind of ruins it because this is a pretty cool little fighter jet. It's got a lot of great detailing on it. As you can see, this is one of their best mini sculpts for any of their little vehicle figures. But it's all crumpled in and crushed in the midsection, and the front is torn off, which makes it very awkward. Now, really, the only way you can enjoy this little guy is if you use it the way it's supposed to be used on the box, which is to put it in Godzilla's hand. So it eliminates the ability to have fun playing with it like it's attacking Godzilla. I mean, you could always still just do it. It's just not as fun. I mean, at least for me as a kid. Again, I know I've said 100,000 times, but I was a very particular kid. I would notice that. I guess we'll have to see if it goes in Godzilla's hands pretty well. But here's Godzilla. Oh boy. Now, there are some notable differences between this Godzilla and the Battle Roaring Godzilla, as we'll talk about the comparison. He's got a different tail. His head's in a bit of a different position. It's not looking straight up. It's kind of angled to the side. It's got articulation on the jaw. It's got articulation on the neck and the size. Whoa. Does it have articulation on the neck? It should, but man, that isn't budging. Wow, that is the hardest joint I have ever seen. Well, it has a theoretical articulation on the neck. It can't actually look side to side though. Like, I really have to fight to get him to turn. And that's about all I could get him to do, was crink his neck a little. And he looks super awkward when you do that. All right, there you go. It's loosening up a bit. Yeah, that looks even worse when it's crinked like that. All right, guys. At least the tail's in the cool position. It's got a cool warp to it, so it wraps around in a very cool way. I like that. I like the swoosh of it. I always like the Godzillas that have swooshes in their tails. I don't really know what to talk about here other than it's a bad sculpt. It's a bad sculpt, and it doesn't look good. It looks bad. Much like with the 2014 Godzilla, his leg is supposed to be in the back position. This is how he stands. That's how it's supposed to be. Otherwise, it won't work. If you put his leg forward, now his foot's pointing up in the air. You can still balance him like that, but it's going to look awkward. So you put his foot back. That's how it touches the ground. This one goes forward more, which limits the way you can pose him. Now he's very set in stone in how he's supposed to go. As for the tail, at least the tail, like I said, has a good sculpt to it. There's nothing really different about it. There's no new detailing. It's still the mostly unrendered Playmate style of hard plastic. Even the feet, I'm noticing, are much less detailed than like some of their other Godzillas. There's a lot less wrinkles and it doesn't really work as well, but at least they added those details. Going through the leg, it's got the nice Godzilla patterning, but again, it's just there's no depth to it and it doesn't look as good as their rubber pieces do. Same thing with the bottom of the tail here. There's more detailing, I feel like, on this. There's texturing on this than there is on the hard plastics, and I don't know why that is. But at least it's got the translucent dorsal spines that I love that have some attempt at texture to them. Even though they're transparent, they still have some attempt to it. Also, they're not breakable. You can bend them, so that's good. His arms are more rubbery, which explains why they look a little better. They're not as glossy, shiny, so you can see the texturing a little more. You've got these like interesting veins and stuff, so that they at least tried, or I think those are like his neck frills. They at least tried with the detailing here, but ultimately having his head in this stuck upright position with the crink in his neck, it doesn't look good. At least he can open his jaw. He's got teeth and then a tongue. They're not individually sculpted, but they're there. And then he's got his big blue eyes. There they go. They're at least looking the right direction. So again, this would be one as a kid I would play with as like an underwater swimming Godzilla. Like he's swimming right for you. It's just very limiting. This whole thing is very limited. The foot being back, the neck being up. It's a very limited sculpt. I don't get why you would do that. I guess because they've already released so many other Godzillas. Like we already have the Godzilla with heat ray that has the blue spines, the black body. They didn't want to redo that. So then why'd you make this? We already have the Roaring Godzilla. It's not like they made a Battle Roaring Kong and then another Kong on top of it with the same model. That Battle Roaring Kong is the only one that looks like itself, probably for the better. As far as points of articulation, I count 1 for the tail. Theoretically, there are 2 for the feet, as they are not attached to the leg, but they are as well stiff joints, so you're gonna have to work with those. 2 for the legs, 2 for the arms. He's got rubbery hands, so they can kind of squish if you force them to, which is always nice. 1 for the neck, sort of, and then 1 for the jaw. That brings us to a grand total of 9 points of articulation. Pretty far from what the Kongs have. I just don't get the sculpt at all. I don't get why they would do that, but at least he can supposedly hold this fighter jet in his hand, as Godzilla loves to do, and by that I mean I can't think of a single time he's ever actually held a fighter jet in a movie. But there he goes holding it. At least it goes in his hand nice. That's fine. That looks alright. That looks okay when it's in his hand. It looks kind of cool. Yeah, I like that. That looks good. Just not a toy as a kid I would want to play with much. Definitely one that I would be like, oh, At least I have it. There you go. I guess this is how he's supposed to be displayed. Looking straight up into the sky, screaming. As for our comparisons, like I said, he's not as big and tall as the Battle Roaring Godzilla. That Battle Roaring one's much glossier. At least this one doesn't have all the bolts on him. But the Battle Roaring one is a figure with a gimmick. He looks way better. Oh, I should also note, I do like the way that the blue fades through the back into the tail here. I like that they do that. But having the two of them side by side, it's like, oh, we see where you got the idea from. It's pretty much the same exact sculpt, except that this one, his feet were better. At the very least, his tail is a bit better, I think, honestly. This one, as much as I like the way his tail bends, I like this way better. Maybe the top-down angle will get you a bit of a better idea of the differences between them. There's a big difference, as you can see. I don't know, the Battle Roaring one all around is a better figure for me because at least there's a purpose for him looking up in the air. He can at least roar, and I like that. I like that they do that. There they are. Basically the same figure twice. I don't know why they would release the one without the gimmick that made this interesting, because without it, this isn't that good of a figure. As we can see, he needs the roaring. That is awesome. The roaring is what sold me on this in the first place. Everybody on the internet hated this. They hated the sculpt. They really hated the Kong, but I defended it because it had the gimmicks. I liked the roaring. Well, now you got rid of that. You have a figure that's basically just a duplicate of your other figure, but with a worse sculpt. And now you're selling it for the same price as your normal figures. So it's, I don't like it. Not a fan. Again, here he is next to his superior counterpart, the Godzilla with Heat Ray, which is the same exact body with a different leg positions. He's got the same dorsal spines and a much better head sculpt where he's actually looking forward and roaring. At the very least, they gave us the two, so we don't have to worry about like this being our only Godzilla figure. Also, like, as much as I actually do love, because it really does look nice, especially with the contrast between the black and the silver, him holding the jet, it's just not enough to sell it for me, whereas this had like atomic breath. Now you can see the two of them side by side. They do have different tails entirely, and again, I think I kind of like this better because it's longer. It looks a little more Godzilla to me. This one's, as much as I do like it, it's just small. Maybe if they had a better pose like they did on the Battle Roaring one, I'd be all for it. But I don't know. I'm pretty unimpressed, as you can tell. I don't get the need for this figure to exist. That didn't justify its need. Because ultimately, that's the question that I ask myself. Does this figure justify its own existence? And in this case, I say no. In this case, like with this horrible sculpt, if they were to release this without the roaring gimmick, everybody would hate it, as they already did, and I wouldn't defend it either. The thing that sold this Kong to me was this. Cool. It's cool. I also do like how powerful this figure is. Like, he really seems like he could poof with those fists. Like, he could really do some damage to a Godzilla. Oop. Because that's cool. It's cool to have him roar like that. So the two of them side by side, I prefer the Kong over this guy. And then one final comparison, Godzilla next to Kong. You can see that there's a bit of a height difference between the two, but that mostly comes from the fact that he's looking straight into the sky. If the way that I judge these figures is based upon if they justify their own existence, which a lot of the time it is, I would say this guy absolutely does not justify his own existence. The cons way more outweigh the pros. There really aren't many pros to this figure at all, as I've covered. I mean, at least the paint is consistent with the other Playmates figures, and the accessory looks good in his hand. I'm gonna give this one a 3 out of 10. Not impressed. At least they didn't do it to Kong as well. Well, that'll do it for this one, guys. Sorry it was a bit of a downer one. They just released a crappy figure. It's not even got memeability like the Space Godzilla. Please consider supporting the Patreon using the link in the description below. It goes a really long way towards supporting the channel, making sure I can keep doing videos like this for you guys. Through the Patreon, you can get early access to content, access to the Discord community, and more. So please go check that out. All right, thank you guys all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you guys next time for hopefully a better figure. D-Man out.